Assemblyman Graf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start out with a statement. I'm not that happy with the governor's lines of communication because on my side of the aisle in the Assembly, and we represent the largest percentage of Long Islanders on my side of the aisle, we were left out of the conversation. We had no such meeting. And to be honest, I'm not happy. With that said, I have a couple questions. One of the things we didn't talk about today in any of the testimony was smaller municipal electrics, as far as a Suffolk County Municipal Electric or Nassau County Municipal Electric. And I think we should be looking at that. The other thing is deregulation, like we did with the telephone companies, where you spur competition instead of selling it to one entity. We saw this movie before. It was called LIPA. It didn't work out too well for us. Now, with that said, LIPA sells the electricity to LIPA. Am I correct?
No, we sell power to 51 municipal and rural cooperatives across the state, not the LIPA.
Oh, well, my understanding, because I went through this, I've been living this for a year and a half, okay? And I know that 62% of LIPA's budget is buying electricity. That was from LIPA. And after going back and forth between NIPA and everyone else, it took me a while, but the answers that I got from NIPA was yes, they were selling electricity to LIPA. So I don't know if that's correct.
Well, no. It's the delivery. You know, LIPA owns the wires on Long Island. So, for example, if we have a recharge New York customer on Long Island, LIPA will have to deliver that power to those recharge customers on Long Island. If you mean in that manner, then that's correct.
Okay, we have a power generating plant in Holtzville, which is owned by NIPA.
What was that?
There's a power plant
Yes.
in Holtzville
Yes.
that's owned by
We have
NIPA.
we have a 150 megawatt, relatively small power plant that is under a long-term contract to LIPA.
Yeah,
That's
and
correct.
is LIPA buying that electricity from that power plant?
That's correct.
Okay. And right now, what happens is when LIPA pulls power out of the grid, we're paying 9 cents per kilowatt. Right?
I don't know the blended amount. It depends on which power plant and what type of contract.
Okay, I can tell you, we're paying 9 cents per kilowatt. But if you look at Rockville Center, Freeport, Greenport, and Lake Placid, who get preference power, they're paying 1 cent per kilowatt, correct?
No, more than 1 cent at the preference rate, but more than 1 cent. Though, again, they are part of the 51 muni and cooperatives that NIPA sells power to.
Okay.
Across the state.
Now, when we're taking power from you, is there anyone throughout the state that's paying as much as we are per kilowatt that you know of?
Maybe I'm not 100% sure, but maybe in the Con Ed service territory.
So basically, we're paying a lot more than anyone else throughout the state. Would you agree with that?
Again, yes.
Okay. And why this is important to us is electricity affects everything for us. It affects our property taxes, and it affects our job growth. Let me give you some numbers. Suffolk County's electric bill, Suffolk County government, their electric bill per month is $1,779,000. The town of Islip, per month, $330,000 a month they pay for electric. The town of Brookhaven, $451,000 a month. My school district, I believe, is $240,000 a month. So electricity is the main thing that's holding back our economy. And what I'm trying to figure out is why Long Island constantly has to subsidize the rest of the state, and why we get treated differently where we're paying more money for energy than other people are paying. That's number one. Number two, if you look at states like Pennsylvania, you can buy your power from 5 different companies. You have a choice, all right? And there's competition there. Have you looked at the contract with PSE&G to see if, thoroughly looked at it to see if there's any out clauses that would get you out of the contract? Because I know every time the government enters into a contract, there's always an out clause. Have you thoroughly looked at the contract?
Well, I think that was the question earlier having to do with what penalties there might be if we tried to cancel the contract. And there is a clause in there that allows us to cancel, allows LIPA to cancel a contract. It requires a $7 million penalty and a reimbursement of out-of-pocket costs.
Okay.
So it is cancelable on those terms.
What if LIPA enters bankruptcy and fails to exist anymore?
That option is something that is part of the analysis that we're doing. I have to tell you, though, that there are a lot of unintended consequences to doing something like that in terms of the state's authorities and what promises they make to their bondholders. So to declare bankruptcy, I think, would have some unintended risks that need to be factored into that analysis.
Okay. And now, when you were sitting there, you're looking at have you talked to other municipal electrics to see how they perform during a storm?
I can't disclose the other work that the Moreland Commission is doing.
Okay.
Until the report comes out.
Well, let me put it this way. I lived upstate New York during the ice storm. All right, and Lake Placid had a municipal electric. You had Niagara Mohawk, but they had a municipal electric. During this storm, Sandy, you have Rockville Center has a municipal electric, Freeport has a, I'd like to see how they performed and the satisfaction that their customers had. And, I'm going more towards looking at a smaller municipal electric, which will give more control to the local, authorities such as Suffolk County. And then the oversight on it is if they're not performing right, then election time, they can vote them out of office. So there's a little more oversight from the people that are buying the electricity. And I'm going to leave one last thing to give people an idea of what I'm talking about when we're paying for electricity and the cost that we're paying. When I lived upstate, Lake Placid had their own municipal electric. This is in the Adirondacks. It goes below zero. And everybody up there heats their house with electric baseboard heat because the electricity is so cheap. So let me tell you something. They're doing something right. We're doing something wrong. And Long Island cannot afford any higher electrical rates. And there are ways to make it more equitable for the people down here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.